Welcome back to BNG Hockey, where it's always black and gold. Today's the NHL Awards, and while some Bruins will be heading to Nashville, other Bruins will be heading to the Chicago Blackhawks. Let's talk about it. Today, the Bruins made a big-time cap dump as they send forward Taylor Hall and the rights to forward Nick Foligno to the Chicago Blackhawks for the rights to RFA defenseman Ian Mitchell and RFA defenseman Alec Regula. We're going to start off by talking about the players headed to Chicago in this deal, then we'll get into what the Bruins are getting in this trade, and then I'll give you my overall thoughts on this move. This video is a little awkward. As you can see, Taylor Hall is very much still in my intro, so I will definitely be working on a new one, but I wanted to get this video out to you guys as soon as possible. Now, branching off of that, if you've been with the channel long enough, and you can always go back and check it out, I suggest that you do if you don't believe me, but my Taylor Hall reaction video when the Bruins traded for him is probably the most excited I've ever been on this channel. So this is kind of a heartbreaking trade for me. Now, I will say Taylor Hall wasn't the best in his time here. He was perfect when we first got him, but slowly kind of fell into a third line role, and paying a guy $6 million per season to give you third line minutes with third line production just isn't worth it for this team that's still trying to contend. Now, that being said, Taylor Hall is 31 years old. He still has 2 years remaining, making $6 million per season. Last season with the Bruins in 61 games, he had 16 goals, 20 assists for a total of 36 points, and was a plus 11. Like I said, that production just doesn't match with his salary cap amount. In 7 playoff games, he actually had a pretty impressive playoffs for a disappointing playoff Bruins team. He had 5 goals and 3 assists for a total of 8 points and was a plus 4 in those 7 playoff games. So he was one of the only bright spots of that entire Bruins playoff. He's played in a total of 822 NHL games after going first overall. He has 264 goals, 429 assists for a total of 693 points and is a career minus 26. This will be his 6th team that he's been on, so that does tell you something. Over time, Taylor Hall kind of gets old in the locker room, and it sounds like that was happening once again here in Boston. But I do think he's going to be a perfect fit alongside Connor Bedard, who's likely going to be drafted first overall in just a couple days. They both play with speed, and Bedard is a bit more of a goal scorer, and Taylor Hall is a perfect playmaker. So that's a fantastic fit. You get a star winger for a star young centerman, and I think they'll do really great together. In fact, Taylor Hall's played some of his best hockey when he's on really bad teams that aren't competing. And the Chicago Blackhawks are definitely going to be on the rise with some young players, but they are going to be a bottom-of-the-barrel team. The Bruins also send the rights to forward Nick Foligno in this deal to the Blackhawks. He's going to be a UFA on July 1st. It does sound like the Chicago Blackhawks are already working on a deal with Foligno to keep him around. This is a great move by the Blackhawks. As I said, they're going to be a bottom-of-the-barrel team, but getting a guy with great veteran leadership who can teach these young guys how to be good pros is a smart move. And he still had pretty good production for the Bruins last season. Again, he was another player who wasn't exactly worth his cap hit, but now they'll likely be signing him to a pretty low contract on a bad team, so I do think his production will probably add up a little better. In 60 games with the Bruins last season, he had 10 goals, 16 assists for a total of 26 points, and was a plus 18. His playoff performance wasn't anything too great. In 6 games, he had 1 goal, 2 assists for a total of 3 points, but he was playing mostly a fourth-line role. He's played over 1,000 NHL games with 1,081 games played, scoring 215 goals, 310 assists for a total of 525 points, and is a career plus 5. I absolutely love Uncle Nick. I think he was fantastic for our locker room and was one of the guys probably right behind Patrice Bergeron for me that I wanted to see get a cup. Obviously, it would have been Bergie's second, but I obviously love Patrice Bergeron more than anybody on this roster. But Uncle Nick was right behind him for me. I want to see him get his first cup because he's a great guy, a great pro, and brought so much to the Bruins locker room. So I do think he'll be an excellent fit with an up-and-coming Blackhawks team. Now let's talk about what the Bruins get in this trade. It's mostly the $6 million in cap space, but they do acquire 2 RFA defensemen. The first of them being Ian Mitchell. He's a 24-year-old, 5'11" right-shot defenseman, originally selected in the second round of the 2017 draft, 57th overall. He's played in 82 NHL games, scoring 4 goals, 12 assists for a total of 16 points, and was a minus 21 in his career so far. Last season with the Blackhawks, he played in 35 games, scoring 1 goal, 7 assists for a total of 8 points, and was a minus 8. In his AHL career with the Ice Hogs, he's played in 67 games, scoring 13 goals, 29 assists for a total of 42 points. He's a good offensive defenseman with some upside, a really good skater. He's familiar with Jim Montgomery, who coached him when he was in Denver. He was the captain at Denver as well, so he's a good leader. And I do think this is going to end up being a likely Connor Clifton replacement. Or if they trade a guy like Matt Grzelcyk and you want a little more offense on the back end, he's going to be a lot cheaper than those guys and hopefully still has time to develop into a player of that caliber. I could see him being a Connor Clifton type player. That's probably his ceiling, but who knows? He is only 24, and sometimes guys take a little bit longer to mature, and maybe coming to a better team, a better system, and understanding Bruins hockey will be a better role for him than what he was playing in Chicago. The Bruins also acquire the rights to Alec Regula. He's a 22-year-old, 6'4" right shot defenseman, originally selected in the third round of the 2018 draft, 67th overall. He's played in 22 NHL games, scoring 1 goal, 0 assists, and is a -5. And last season with the Blackhawks, he only played in 4 games with 0 points and was a -3. He's played in 108 AHL games already, scoring 12 goals, 39 assists for a total of 51 points. And his last season in the OHL with the London Knights was really impressive, especially for a guy who's 6'4" and plays D. In 56 games, he had 27 goals, 33 assists for a total of 60 points. For a third-round pick, that's pretty impressive production, and I'd like to see this guy step up his offensive game a little bit more when it comes to the AHL level and then hopefully the NHL level. As we can just see from the Vegas Golden Knights winning the Cup, having a big D-core is huge, and the Bruins are well on their way with some pretty big guys, but I want to see them get bigger. I want to see them move on from the guys like the Connor Cliftons and the Matt Grzelcyks, or even the Ian Mitchell type like they just got. If this guy can play a similar style, add some offense to his game, and bring the 6'4" frame, that would be a fantastic addition to this Bruins back end. And at 22 years old, he could still become something. So I am kind of hopeful that these two can come in on cheap deals, work on their game, and maybe become a little something. And not only do you get $6 million in cap space, but you also get some pretty good defense to add to your overall D-core depth. Overall, this isn't a great trade for the Bruins, but more of a necessary trade. It's absolutely huge that they get $6 million in cap space, and they didn't have to retain any of Taylor Hall's contract. They now have $10.9 million in cap space, and they still have a lot of guys to sign. All eyes turn right to Tyler Bertuzzi. I don't believe they'd move Hall unless they were 100% confident that they would keep Tyler Bertuzzi, who in my opinion is a huge upgrade over Taylor Hall, as long as we don't totally overpay for Bertuzzi, but I do think he's a perfect Bruin, a perfect fit with this up-and-coming core, and can give you a lot more production. They do get 2 young players in this deal. I was kind of hoping for draft picks back just because the Blackhawks have so many and the Bruins have so few, and we desperately need young talent, but I am confident that they'll be able to sign both of these young players because they are RFAs, and I don't think they would have acquired them if they didn't believe they could get a deal done as well. So we do add some defensive depth, do get some young talent, not the best young talent, but overall we'll take it. And the $6 million in cap space is pretty impressive. The fact that you didn't have to give up a first or a second or a third round pick to sweeten that deal, you just get the Blackhawks to take it and not even worry about the money on your end is an absolute win for the Bruins. I do think this is a slam dunk trade for the Chicago Blackhawks. You give up absolutely nothing. You get the rights to Foligno, who I think will be a good fit, so they can probably negotiate with him before July 1st and get a deal done. I think Taylor Hall is going to be a perfect fit alongside Connor Bedard. Don't be surprised when he puts up a 70-point season next to that kid, because he's the next superstar in this league. So it's a great trade for the Blackhawks. I wish the best to Taylor Hall and Nick Foligno, 2 of my favorite Bruins. I'm sad to see them go, but they just didn't fit here anymore. So all the best to them in Chicago, and I'm hopeful that Regula and Mitchell can find their game here in Boston, because that would be a huge win for the Bruins as well. Let me know your thoughts on this trade. Do you think there's more to come? How do you want to see them use this $6 million in cap space? Leave all that down below in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a big like, and if you haven't already, subscribe.